How's it going, everybody? 2006 Jeep Commander 4.7 V8, four-wheel drive, check engine light, P0420. We diagnosed it a while back. All right, sorry about that one, guys. Just trying to get a better view through the wheel well, but so the original nuts, if you look, they have a good little. It's like a retainer almost that's built with the nut. I'm trying to get a really good view for you. There you go. As you can see, around the nut, it actually holds the nut from spinning loose or tight. They're definitely very nice, but they do wear out. So once they come apart, the little metal piece that actually sits up on the top that holds the nut, so to let it go almost one full turn, and then it stops, the nut from actually spinning. So you're able to take it from the bottom. So the driver's side had those, passenger side did not. Passenger side, thought about it as I was putting it together. Just bolt nut, front and back. So for the passenger side, all right, let's start at the driver's side. Driver's side, you pull the wheel well out, just quick. There's a screw there, bunch of plastic clips, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. I'm sure people have made 100 different videos on how to take these off. Pop the inner fender out, and that gives you access into the wheel well. You can get into the manifolds a little bit easier. So, crawling under here. So, bottom of the Jeep. The new catalytic converters. Muffler. So we're laying underneath it. Driver's side, you got the drive shaft. You don't have to drop the drive shaft. You can take a long extension, feed it in from down here up through here. You got those two bolts there. Come over to the passenger side. The oxygen sensor, right there. Oxygen sensor is kind of in the way. You pop that out, 7/8 22 millimeter. You can get to the top bolt a lot easier. As far as the nuts go, for the passenger side, since we did have nuts, there's a little access right here. So, I pretty much just reached my hand up in there. Stubby wrench. And I was able to get to the nut up on top. Use the ratchet and stuff on the bottom to loosen it, unloosen it. Like I said, the nuts on the driver's side were the factory ones that have the little lock tab. We come back here. You have one exhaust hanger right there. 2 nuts and bolts, bam, bam. The top one's a little bit longer. New pipe, it kind of sat a little bit of at an angle. And, it's kind of, that's just how it lined it up. It's all sealed. So I'm pretty happy about how it turned out. But, so in order to get the actual wide pipe out, you have to move the actual hanger out of the way. So if you follow it back, boom, 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 right there, you can kind of see one of the lower nuts. There's 2 nuts. There's an upper and a lower right there. I'm pretty sure they were 15 or 5/8, one of the two. But you got a lower nut and an upper nut. All right, lower, upper nut right there. Good view. Lower one, upper one. You can loosen those. There's nuts behind them. At the stud, you're able to pull the bracket itself backwards in order to get it off the flex pipe. Now, I guess back up here so I can just talk a little bit. So anyway, going from underneath the passenger side down where that bracket comes up and over, the 2 nuts are, take a long extension, come in from up top of it. You can get right on it, back them out. It's kind of tight, if you got big hands, you can use magnetic sockets, honestly, would be the ideal way to go. Not all of us have them, so we just stuff her and we just get it done. So in order to get the converter out, once you actually get the nuts off, the oxygen sensors unhooked, you have to drop the transmission cross member. So you want to support the transmission. You don't necessarily have to jack it up. I did just, I loosened the 4 bolts in the middle. So you've got 4 bolts on the outside, 4 bolts in the middle, and then 4 bolts on the outside. I loosen the floor up in the middle just so I can bring it off from the cross member just enough to, you know, not have the weight of the transmission pushing down on it as I was trying to take the other 8 bolts from, you know, the 4 on each side out. Once we got once it was supported, you know, I put the jack underneath the pan. I put a couple pieces of 2x4 under there. That way it cushioned it from the pan itself, and it helped level it out so it wasn't just the head of the jack pushing up into the pan. So after that, after I had it jacked up, I took a jack stand. I supported it with a jack stand and the jack, so it balanced it out. It helped it a lot more than it just being on the pan. And obviously you don't want to put a ton of weight on the transmission or the transfer case, because that's not what it's made for. Get the cross member out after you have everything else done. You can drop the cats out, put the new cats in. I did the hanger first because, I mean, it helped hold the converters in. Once the hanger was in, then I put the cross member back up. I got the 8 outside bolts tight, and then I did the 4 in the middle. And then I worked from there. I started with the driver's side. I did those 2, and then these 2, and then I finished off with the 2 in the back. The oxygen sensors, I just used a 22 super long wrench. This is kind of the mess of tools that I had, but 22 millimeter long. You know, long extension. See, that was a 9/16. You know, like I said, for the most part, it's not a terrible job. It's definitely time consuming. You know, you don't want to just go in and reefing and reaming on stuff and, you know, ending up. On the driver's side, you have your starter wire. It's right there next to it. Over here on the passenger side, you have the transmission cooler lines that run right beside it. So you don't want to mess anything up. So just take your time. And, you know, for the most part, it's like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory to a point. There are a few spots where it's like, oh man, how am I going to do this? You know, because if you're underneath it, if you're down there, you're trying to put one arm with the long extension up to get to the bolt from the bottom, and then taking another arm, wrapping it up and holding it from here. I mean, it's quite a reach. The driver's side was the worst. The passenger side, I was able to go through that little cutout that I showed you. I was able to come up from there with the stubby. And when I mean stubby, I'm just talking like it's short. You know, so. But yeah, so, you know, going through, getting it all back together. I don't tighten anything completely down, get it snug. So if you have to adjust it at all, you're able to without having to go to the other side, loosen it back up. You know, it's just tight enough to hold it in one spot, but still loose enough for you to be able to scooch it if you need to get everything to line up. So what it does is there's actually 3 different gaskets. You know, they're part of the actual exhaust manifolds themselves. They're donut gaskets. You know, it's kind of flanged here, so the good old donut gasket sits down in, and that's what seals it. You know, right here, same way. It's got a good flange, sits right in there. So, but yeah, I just want to take you guys along a little bit and show you what I was working on today, and you know, with any luck, it's gonna help somebody. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next.